This house is mine now, Amanda said, tapping her long nails on my kitchen counter. We've talked to our lawyer, and since Marcus is your only heir, we're moving in. You should start packing. I looked up from my crossword puzzle, eyeing my daughter-in-law's smug face. At 65, I'd seen enough in life to know greed when it stood in front of me in designer clothes. Is that so? I said calmly, picking up my tea. And what does Marcus think about all this? Amanda's smile grew, like a cat that just caught a mouse. He agrees. This house is too big for one person. You're getting older, Sarah. We're doing this for your own good. I gently placed my cup down, thinking of the day my late husband James and I first stepped into this house, 30 years ago. We'd raised Marcus here, turned every room into a memory. Even though James had been gone 5 years, I still felt him in the garden he planted, the stairs he fixed, the stained glass windows he loved. The deed, I said, opening a drawer beside me. You should read it before you start planning your new curtains. Amanda frowned. What about it? This house belongs to the family. Exactly. I slid the paper toward her. Take a close look, especially at the part about the historical society. She read it, her smile fading. This can't be right. The house is protected. And you're the head of the board. For the last 3 years, I said, sipping my tea. James and I set this up before he died. No one can force me to leave or change anything here without approval. This house is part of the city's history now. Amanda's face turned red. But Marcus is your son, your only child. And I'm protecting our home, I replied, standing up. James and I didn't just build a house. We built a legacy. She gripped the deed so tightly her knuckles turned white. Marcus won't let this stand. When he finds out. When I find out what? Marcus asked, walking into the kitchen. What's going on? Amanda quickly turned sweet. Your mother's being unreasonable. She gave the house to some historical group instead of keeping it in the family. Marcus looked confused. Mom, is that true? It's still in the family, I said gently, but now it's protected for the future, just like your father wanted. But we were going to. Amanda began, but Marcus cut her off. Going to do what? You told me Mom needed help with the house. You didn't say anything about taking it. Amanda said nothing. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Your father and I thought this through, Marcus, I said. This house is where you grew up. It's full of stories, memories. It's the fireplace where you hung your Christmas stocking, the window where you used to read, the garden where your dad showed you the stars. Marcus's eyes softened. Then a hint of guilt showed up too. Mom, I didn't know. I'd never agree to this if I had. I know, sweetheart, I said. Marcus had always had his father's kind heart. Amanda slammed the deed down. This isn't over. There has to be a way to fight this. I calmly put the deed back in the drawer. You're welcome to try. But maybe check who's on the legal team for the Historical Society first. Isn't your father part of it, Amanda? I'm sure he'd be very interested to hear your plans for one of the city's landmarks. Her face turned pale. Her own father had helped us set this up years ago. You planned this, she whispered. I planned to protect my home, I said. You planned to take it from someone you thought was weak. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have seen this coming. It's all right, I said. But you two need to talk about your future, in your own house. They left, Amanda stomping out, Marcus trailing behind. I went back to my crossword puzzle. The house creaked around me, peaceful and warm. Outside, the wind chimes James hung in the garden tinkled softly. Well, my love, I said into the quiet kitchen. I think that went just as we hoped. The next morning, Amanda sent a flood of angry texts. Some were threats, others were fake apologies. I read them while tending to James's roses in the garden. Their scent filled the air and helped me stay calm. You're tearing this family apart, one message said. Marcus is devastated. But I didn't believe that. I'd seen Marcus's face yesterday, not heartbroken, just finally seeing things clearly. Sometimes, loving your children means letting them figure things out on their own. The garden gate creaked, and I looked up to see my sister Eleanor walking toward me. She looked worried. I saw Marcus at the grocery store, she said as she sat down beside me. He looked awful. What's going on? I set my gardening tools aside and sighed. Eleanor had been my support ever since James passed away. Amanda tried to take the house yesterday, I told her, watching a butterfly land on one of the roses. She told me to start packing. Eleanor let out a sharp laugh. Did you show her the deed? I did, I said, smiling at the memory of Amanda's shocked face. But I'm worried about Marcus. He didn't know what she was planning. He's always been too trusting, Eleanor said gently. Just like James. We sat in silence for a while, watching the butterflies. The house stood behind us, peaceful and strong, just like it had always been. She's not going to give up, Eleanor said after a while. Amanda isn't the type. I know, I replied. That's why I called the Historical Society this morning. We're having an emergency meeting tomorrow to talk about strengthening the house's protection. Eleanor smiled. You're always a few steps ahead. James would be proud. The rest of the day was quiet, but in the evening, the doorbell rang. I looked through the stained glass panels and saw Marcus standing alone on the porch. Hi, Mom, he said when I opened the door. He looked tired and uncertain. Can we talk? I led him into the kitchen, the heart of the home. I made tea, James's favorite blend, and Marcus sat at the counter, running his fingers along the old wooden edge like he used to as a child. Amanda and I had a big fight last night, he said after a moment. She said some things about you and about the house. I didn't know she felt that way. I set the mug in front of him. His hands were shaking a little. People show us who they are, I said gently. Sometimes we just don't want to see it. She called you manipulative, said you planned all this to keep control. He looked up at me. But that's not true, is it? This was Dad's dream too. Tears filled my eyes. Your father loved this house, not just for what it was, but for what it stood for. Family, history, a place to come home to. When he got sick, protecting it became our last project together. Marcus looked around the kitchen at the old copper pots, the AGA stove, the window seat where he used to do homework. I remember Dad teaching me about the wood in these cabinets, he said. Amanda wants to rip them out and put in something modern. And what do you want, Marcus? I asked. He didn't answer right away. He held his tea in thought. I want to understand why I didn't see this sooner. Why I let her convince me that changing everything was the same as improving it. Love can blind us, I said softly. Your dad and I had to remind each other sometimes what really mattered. She's talking about divorce, he whispered. She says I'm choosing a house over her. I reached out and held his hand. It looked just like James's now, strong, worn, with the same little scar on his thumb from when he was young. It's not about choosing a house, I said. It's about respecting what matters to the people we love. Your father spent hours fixing this place, not because he loved old houses, but because I did. Marcus squeezed my hand. I saw the truth hit him. And Amanda wants to tear it all down just because she didn't get her way. You have to see that for yourself, I said. No one could tell you. He stood up and hugged me tight, like he did when he was little. I'm sorry, Ma. I should have understood sooner. You do now, I said. That's what matters. When he pulled back, there was something new in his eyes, strength, clarity, purpose. I should go, he said. Amanda and I have a lot to talk about. I walked him to the door. The stained glass cast soft colors on his face. This will always be your home, Marcus, I said. That's what your father and I wanted most. He smiled, really smiled. I know, Mom. I finally know. As I watched him walk through the garden gate, past the roses James had planted, I felt a quiet presence beside me. We did good, my love, I whispered. We did good. 3 months passed, each day bringing subtle changes. Marcus moved out of this house with Amanda, taking only what he brought into the marriage. He didn't tell me where he was staying at first, but Eleanor let slip that he rented a small apartment near the university where he taught. Amanda, true to form, didn't go quietly. She tried everything, threatening legal action, spreading rumors in our social circle, even attempting to contact the Historical Society board members directly. But like many bullies faced with firm boundaries, she eventually ran out of steam. One crisp autumn morning, as I was organizing old photographs in the library, the doorbell chimed. Through the wavered glass, I saw Marcus standing there, looking more like himself than he had in years. I signed the divorce papers today, he said as I let him in. He didn't sound sad, just relieved. It's finally over. I led him to the library where afternoon sunlight streamed through the bay window, illuminating dozens of photos spread across James' old desk. Marcus picked one up, himself at about 7, sitting on his father's shoulders as they worked on restoring the front porch. I remember this day, he said softly. Dad let me hold the paintbrush by myself for the first time. I got more paint on us than the railing. He didn't mind one bit. I smiled, remembering James's laughter as paint dripped down his neck. He said it was worth it to see how proud you were. Marcus set the photo down carefully, then turned to face me. I've been thinking, Mom, about the house, about everything you and Dad built here. He took a deep breath. I want to learn. About preservation, about the history, all of it. My heart swelled. Your father would love that. Actually, Marcus continued, a familiar gleam in his eye had already started. I've been taking workshops at the Historical Society, learning about Victorian architecture. They're looking for new board members, and I thought. I pulled him into a hug, cutting off his words. Over his shoulder, I could see James's favorite reading chair, where he used to sit and dream up new projects for the house. Our son was finally ready to carry on his legacy, not out of obligation, but genuine love. The next few months brought changes I never expected. Marcus threw himself into learning everything about historical preservation, spending weekends helping me with house projects just like he used to do with his father. We restored the back garden together, uncovering paths James had laid decades ago. The Historical Society welcomed him warmly, especially when they realized he shared his father's passion for preservation. He brought fresh ideas to the board, suggesting educational programs for local schools and community outreach events. One evening, as we sat in the garden watching the sunset paint the old house in shades of gold, Marcus turned to me with a thoughtful expression. You know, Mom, I understand now why you and Dad protected this place the way you did. It's not just about the house itself. It's about preserving something meaningful, something that tells our family's story. I reached over and squeezed his hand. That's exactly what your father used to say. I heard Amanda got engaged, he said after a moment, to some developer who specializes in modern high-rises. Are you okay? I asked gently. He smiled, genuine and warm. Better than okay. I'm exactly where I should be. Looking at him then, I saw so much of James, the quiet strength, the gentle heart, the appreciation for things that carry meaning beyond their surface value. But I also saw something uniquely Marcus, a wisdom earned through learning from his mistakes. Later that night, after Marcus left, I stood in the entrance hall, taking in the house that had sheltered so many chapters of our family's story. The original woodwork still gleamed, testament to James's careful restoration. The stained glass cast familiar patterns on the floor, unchanged by time or circumstance. You were right all along, my love, I whispered to James's presence that always seemed strongest in these quiet moments. Our son just needed time to find his way home. As if in response, a warm breeze carried the scent of roses through the open window. James' roses, now tended by his son's hands. Some things change, I realized, but the things that matter most remain, growing stronger with each generation that chooses to preserve them. In the end, what Amanda never understood was that this house was never just about property or possession. It was about legacy, about family, about the stories we choose to protect and pass on. Marcus understood that now, and in doing so, he found not just his inheritance, but his true home.